Hey everybody, Brad Linder back at you again. We're going to be doing the coloring session for Darth Maul tonight, and going to knock this one out hopefully pretty quick, and just sharing this over with the page and the channel so that we can all see it and join in. I didn't give everybody much notice on this one, just kind of popped on. So if you didn't get the notification, I apologize. That wasn't my intent, but hey, it is what it is. I'm grabbing a red pen here. I'm grabbing my fine line red Sharpie so that I can go in and do this lightsaber bit right here. See, red Sharpie, yay. So I'm going to do this as quickly as possible and see if I can get this going and start this lightsaber really well here right out of the gate. And I want to go further than this, so I'm going to use the longer ruler here. Okay, so we can grab this really fast, move my blotter. I'm going to kind of go right on the inside of this saber here, about half a run, because I want to get this lined up. And I normally would do this pre-map, but I want to make sure this is nice and level. So that's where I'm at right now. There we go. Cool. And like I said, I'm not normally one to use something like this, but I would rather freehand it and get it done. But I want to make sure that the degum thing's level so that we don't have that problem. So I'm going to go ahead and do it this way. And because of the fact that I'm going to be doing this lightsaber all the way around, I want to make sure, and all the way across, I want to make sure it's nice and even. I wouldn't normally do it, like I said, I wouldn't normally do it right to the edge like this, but in this particular case, I'm going to have it run right off the edge so I can make this a full print. So, hence why I'm taking the liberty here of going all the way off the edge. And if it's not perfect, that's, if it's not perfect with the bleeding lines, we're going to highlight those and flare them out anyway. So I'm not really worried about that, okay? I know a lot of people are perfectionist about it, and they want to be all, you're messing it up. Nah, not really. Not really. If you know what I'm doing here and you know how I work this thing, I'm going to do this more or less anyway. So, and with this being a sketch piece, I'm really cool with that because I get to go in and do it anyway. So, awesome. There we go. Cool. The lightsaber guidelines are in. Yes, I know I went over right there a little bit, but I'll tap on some white for that later. That's fine. But anyway, I don't want to leave this around because I don't want to mess it up. But there we have the principal lines for the lightsabers. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to put in like 3 different reds on his face because it is very temperamental here. So I'm going to go right into this. So you guys bear with me just a second because we're going to get started right now on this head because I am not kidding. I'm going to put in the soft bright red. This is an RV29, and you want to go in with a base pink like this, a red violet, because you have to put in this great undertone that has a warm blood flow to it, because if you don't, it won't highlight properly whenever you tone it down and jump into it with the other colors. Always start with your highlight as your base when you're painting with Copics in markers, because these paints are very forgiving on the layering, but they're not when you go in with lighter colors over the darker, because it tends to wash them in reverse and thin them out and make them run around, and then it leaves marks and it's weird. So go with the lighter first, go in and do the proper coloring, layer it down nice and even, and make it rich and make it pop up. Now, a lot of people will go in and leave spaces for like highlights, you know, whites and whatnot. And I don't prefer to do it that way. What I like to do is go in over them with a pencil and wash them out that way. If I'm going to do a true highlight like a white or something crazy like that, and I went over on that horn right there, but the color will wash out because it's an orange color anyway. So that's fine there. But anyway, what I'm saying is keep note of the keep track and keep note of what's going on with the way that he comes out, because what's going to end up happening is you're going to end up washing it out and you'll make mistakes here and there. So don't do that. You know, I like to go in like this and knock this stuff out and just be all over the place with it once it's done. That way you can have fun with it and not worry about it once the base coat's down. And it's like digital coloring as well. You know, you go in and you put in the base coat, and then you can put whatever details on top you want and the other layers over it. But just remember, this is permanent. So, you know, whatever you jack up along the way is jacked up, period. So, but he's coming along really well. Very simple, very clean, very easy. Nice, vibrant lines. So, no biggie, right? That's our principal red. Now I'm going to go in with a 27, which is a cardamom red. I hope I said that right. Cardamom is a flower. I hope I pronounced that right. But like I said in my accent, probably not. I be a country boy, y'all. So if it doesn't come across, I apologize. But just kind of going through the middle here and darkening this up just a little bit here and there. Not really going overkill with it because I want to add different hues of red and different tones, but I don't want to oversaturate it to where it's not cool and it looks washed out, you know. Overwork it is just as bad. To overwork it is just as bad. But now he's got that flow to him as this is drying. Hey Raymond, glad you made it, buddy. And then now I'm going to go into an immediate dark one, which is going to freak people out, okay? Because first off, I'm going to do this in two parts. I'm going to do this with an R39, but I'm also going to go in with a hot red Sharpie. I know that sounds weird, but trust me on this, okay? Because this does work. What you want to do is you want to go into the center, kind of like you're coloring Venom, okay? I know that's going to be weird, but this color red has a crimson look to it, and it's one of the darkest, purest reds you can get. I've mentioned this numerous times. And what you want to do is you want to build out to the edge from the center. And if you do that, you'll get the richer spots in the middle, and it'll look really cool because it'll look darker in the center at the high points where it's supposed to. So like here on this brow, I'm going to go in from the center, nice and dark, clear coat. And then I'm going to go right around the edges over it, overlapping that center so it builds out. And it looks like highlights because it builds out to the edge, okay? In places like the ears, small spots like that, just saturate them and go. But the bigger spots, you want to, like I said, just go out from the center, put in a line like that, let it set for 2 or 3 seconds, and then go right over it over to your edges, and it'll give it just that darker peak right in the middle. It's a really cool saturation technique. And this isn't even the game changer yet. I mean, we haven't even got to that R39 I just mentioned. And like I said, just go down the middle, put a nice dark layer in the middle, let it set for a couple of seconds, let it dry and tone, and then once it sinks in, you go back out and go to the edge all the way around, and it'll change the game of how you deal with reds completely. Now watch this. I'm going to go in here and I'm just going to wash out right over the top, and you'll see that little bit of a darker red right in the middle where that strip is. And what you get is you get a thinner coat on the outside, and it gives it a natural highlight and lets all those other cool reds show through. Now, same thing, just straight across from one side to the other, right to the left or left to the right. I'm a southpaw, so I go left to right, but that's okay. All right, so now we've got that going on. Again, in these cheek patches, same thing. Put in a high arc. The nose, put in a high arc. And just to give it a little extra pop, we'll go T-bone it right there. And like I said, just a little strip down the middle, nice and saturated. Because then when you go back over it, it gives it that nice peak at the top, right in the middle. So it's got that nice overtone peak right in the middle, and the outer skirts look like they are a little bit thinner for a highlight look. I'm telling you, it's a cool trick. It is a cool trick. Now, when this red dries, it'll be about twice as light as this. But this Sharpie tends to dry a little darker. So don't be afraid of that, because it will saturate and overwash your stuff. And you'll be like, ah, it's too dark. But it dries really, really good. So don't worry about it. Now, here comes the cool part, all right? Thanks, man. I appreciate it. For those on the channel, the people that can't see the Facebook comments, Raymond said he likes the videos, and I so appreciate that, brother. I do. I really do. Okay, now we've got this crimson look in here, right? Now we've got to wait for this to set, and it's going to dry, and it's going to come up a little light. But right as it's been drying, and as you can, I don't know if this shows up on the camera, but I hope so. As you can see, I went downward and got on the chin the last step. And if you notice, it's already starting to dry and lighten up right in here. Now what you're going to do is you're going to put in these little peaks. Just these little peaks of color. Like that, right at the curvature of what would be the bone or the edge of the skull. You want to put in these little peaks and these shadow ridges in the eyes. That kind of thing, you know, right around in there. Boom, boom, boom. Done. Okay? That's it. Now what you want to do is run a little bit on that brow and just come up just a little bit. And like I said, just leave a little smudge in there. And it gives it a secondary type of tattoo tribal mark inside of the red, okay, as you're going along. So it gives it a counter to the red to make the black pop out. So we're going to go put a little smudge right in here with these reds. And just a little bit to give them a little more density. And now some people will question this, and they'll be like, well, why didn't you just leave the highlight of the undertone and just darken it up with the red from the Sharpie? Because that's exactly what you just did. No, it's not, because I'm leaving right now. I'm leaving solid highlights in this. I'm not saturating this to the point where we'll go back and cover it and then wash that out. I mean, these are complete shadowed undertones right here. These are for the dark points, okay? And we want to do that so that it will pop out, like right under this lip. Instead of doing the whole thing, I'm just pocketing it right at the lip and right at the bottom of the chin to make an undershadow. Now when that dries, it will look extremely intense, okay? Now, I'm going to go one further than that because I want to go all out and show you guys how to do this. So what I like to do right here is in these deep points, I like to go crimson. Like this one is a cardinal red. It's a 159. This is about as dark as you can get without going purple. So I like to get right up in here like that and do these undershadows that really ridge it and make it pop and make him look scary. And the darker you go with these Copics, when they dry, they do lighten up quite a bit, substantially. And I do like the fact that they lighten up so well, because that gives you the benefit of crossing over without worrying about it too much. And I got asked right before I came on about his teeth. I'm going to jack them up here in a minute because they have a pattern that goes through them as we go along, as I do the horns, because they happen to be the same color. So I'll be handling that at that point. All right. So now we've got that set up. Now I'm going to go in and I'm going to do his eyes really quick. And I have to grab a couple of extra colors because I didn't grab those. Bear with me while I reach over here. And one more. There we go. Now I think I have them. Yes. Okay, cool. I didn't grab all the oranges that I needed. Now, the way his eyes are done are really weird because they have an egg yolk color, kind of orange color to them, or yellow color to them, and they're weird. Okay? So they go in like this with a yellow. All right? That's his eyes. That's the base color. Now, what you want to do is color that yellow, excuse me, clearing my throat here. Color that yellow, then you want to go in with a fluorescent orange. I particularly like the FYR1 for it, and I have the FR14 as well, but I prefer this one because it has more of an amber type tone to it, and it just makes them pop out and flare up just a little bit richer without flattening them out from a hard orange. Okay, then I use the YR14, which is my favorite toning color for this, which is a caramel color, and that goes for the under this under yellow in the eye here, like that, and that gets the corners trimmed out, okay, and gives the moisture to it. Now you go into what is a YR07. I love this one because of the fact this gives it that bright, almost glowing orange, that lava type orange that goes over both sides of the line of the iris and the pupil there, so you can cross them like that, and it gives it that flare up. Okay, now I'm going to go back in with with the red tip right in the center and put just a red line right on the inside, just on the inside, and leave it alone. Okay, because what that's going to do is that's going to mesh with that yellow and that orange, and it's going to make it flare out, and there you have his eyes. Done deal. Okay, I hope that you dig that trick, because that's one of my favorites to do with this guy. Boom, done. Yay, we have him. Now I'm going to spin the page around. Matter of fact, I won't even spin it around. I'll just do it this way. I'm going to grab where is it? My R08, oops, which I just dropped. My R08, which is a red 08. I'm going to use this one as the outside edge. I'm going to tip this so that I don't bleed it over. As the outside edge for the lightsaber. And I'm going to go out in, all right? I'm going to go on the outside in, and if it crosses over, that's okay. It looks like a raw flicker because this is a living, moving laser, so that's fine. You just go in a little deeper and round it out, and don't worry about it. Don't worry about being perfect, okay? Just worry about being done. So now we have that going on, and I'm going to do the other side here. Okay, like this. And like I said, if it goes over your guideline, don't worry about it. Just map it in. It doesn't have to be perfectly smooth because it's an active laser. All right. Now we have that going on as the base. We're going to do the same thing on the other side over here, and hopefully not jack it up. But just kind of stream this along like this. Nice and neat here. I'm going to move this over so I don't go off the edge and mark on my table. That's a bummer. But I'm going to kind of lay this line here. Okay, cool. Now that we got that down, we're going to let that sit a second. All right. And now we're going to go into some of the suit work. While we're waiting for these reds to dry, I'm going to go off for some of the suit. Just making adjustments here. Everything's sliding around. So what I've got here is a C5, a cool gray, and I'm going to go in here, and this is going to be my base coat. I know that's kind of dark to start with, but the thing is, it really isn't when you think about this being black leather or black, black tweed or whatever it is at the time. I'm not sure exactly what that fabric would be. Those robes sometimes they're leathery looking, sometimes they're fabric looking. It's hard to say. They look heavy, they look dense. So I'm just going to kind of paint this in and let it sit, and we're going to have him nice and dark. So, because in a well lit room, like in some of Phantom Menace's opening fights and closing fights, whenever this guy shows up, the 10 minutes he's in the film, the lightsabers don't refract on clothing as much as you'd think they would, because other light mutes that. Okay, they wouldn't put off a strong enough light to go in and highlight that, like fighting in the dark. So that would be the contrast. Okay, so think about that when you're coloring this stuff. So we go in, I mean, if it was a nice dark shot or a night shot, that would be cool, but for the most part, this is not going to reflect as brightly and have red trim or pink trim all over it. That's not accurate. So just so you know how that rolls out of there. So now we got that going on. We have the horn back here, which I do not want to gray out. That would be a bummer. Just kind of coating this in very carefully around the horns and getting this all done. So there we go. Cool deal. And see, as we build this up, this will be a little more interesting as we go along with it, because those details will pop out a little more as the more color we put into it. But anyway, getting this painted out, rotating my brush so I don't crush it. And there we go. Cool. So now I'm going to skip over to this side a little bit so I can work my way down a little more instead of worrying about missing spots along the way. And I'll do this upper torso here, and then I'll come down into the legs probably real quick and get that done, and then we'll come back and do the belt. But we'll work on that lightsaber a little more before I go into that, so you guys can see how that works. But this is not it's not rocket science. It's not too heavy to color someone from Star Wars. I've heard a bunch of different people say, you can't color that stuff because it's really tricky, and I'm like, what? So challenge accepted. So we're gonna move on through here, and I'm just gonna lay this out like I said, nice and neat, going back and forth here, clean strokes with this thing, trying to make it nice and even. And there we go. Get right on top of that glove there, because it's the same color throughout for the first part. And now there, cool. Grab the rest of this arm first. And it's okay as long as you get it nice and even. It's okay to just go across and get it done. And let that dry. And I hope you guys can see this face is lightening up a lot as we go along. But we want him dark because he's leaning downward, so he's going to be a little darker anyway. Because he's in the shadow. He's in the shadow. So he's leaning over and going like here, kitty, kitty, kitty. So, I am having a blast tonight. Bear with me. But, yeah, it's one of those things where we're just mapping this out, getting it done, and coloring in Darth Maul here. Now, don't be afraid to use other colors on this stuff. I mean, people get so almost fanatic driven in this thing to where they go, oh, you can't, you're a perfectionist, I'm a professional, blah, 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 and, you can't have all this, and you can't do that, and you can't play with color, and you can't do this. I beg to differ. I really do. I beg to differ a lot. Totally, in fact, because of the fact that it's just crazy, man. Just like with anything, you know, whether it's coloring, you know, it's art or business, I'm all about it, man. Jump in and get it done. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and base coat this anyway. I thought about it. I'm just going to base coat it. Okay. Make it all one color. And we'll differentiate as I go along and I detail it out, because I don't want to mess with it as far as, you know, making it all crazy and bugging with it, because that's exactly what I'm talking about here. You know, don't be afraid of the color. Don't be afraid to use it. So we'll just throw down impulsively and lock it out and say, you know, it's all dark gray. And the reason I'm using dark gray, by the way, instead of solid black is so that, guess what? You can see it. So just want to put a little emphasis on that and let you guys know, you know, I see so many people go in and say, well, you know, black's supposed to be true black, and black it out, and don't use grays, and don't use highlights, and don't use this, and don't use that, and, you know, no, man, I'd much rather throw down and have color and have the risk than not have the risk and have it blackened out and just be, you know, kind of wuss out on it. And I see that every day in just about everything that I do, and with people that I work with every single day. They just wuss out. They cannot help themselves, and they have to say, well, I don't want to do that because I don't want to take that risk, man. I don't want to lose my market, or I don't want to lose my fans, or, you know, that's not my style. Well, if that's not your style, then why are you doing it? You know? I mean, that's it. That's it. I hear that all the time. And it's just, come on, you know, liven up. But coloring comics and doing marketing are pretty much the same thing, you know, if you think about it. It's all about the audience and all about what you do for them. And if you're entertaining as well as educational and informational driven, you're good to go. But so many people make it about them. You know, it's all about me as the artist. If you want to come watch me as the artist, and I'm like, bah, bite me. And I mean, I hate to be rude about it, but that's the truth, you know. I want to make sure this thing is still in range here, because I'm coloring down here off camera. Sorry about that. But that's pretty much where it's at, man. I mean, don't be afraid of anything to come down the line. So don't let anybody intimidate you. Respect your NDAs and your contracts and things like that, and respect private conversations of friends rather than throwing them under the bus. But, you know, I mean, be yourself, though. Don't let it retain you from being yourself in the end. Because I've worked with a lot of people, a lot of high-end people, and I hear all the time, you know, well, you can't use that stuff because it's too close to what you did for me, or you can't use me as a reference because I'm too big of a name, and you'll bust my image. If I did the work for you, I should be able to use it. And just because I don't disclose it publicly doesn't mean that, you know, it can't be shown as a portfolio piece in private. It just can't be shown publicly. So that's a big difference. That's a big difference. But anyway, now I'm going to go back to this lightsaber. I'm going to cut back down to this lightsaber business. I'm going to move a few of these so that we have them out of the way here. Hold on a sec. Hopefully I won't wipe out the desk. Now, I'm going to go back to this lightsaber business a bit. I'm going to tip this back up. And here it comes with the cool stuff, all right? This one is RV25. This is a red violet 25, okay? Now what we're going to do is we're going to go just on the inside. I'm going to set this off just a little bit so I don't run it over on the desk. Now we're going to set this off just a little bit. right in between the red line, just a little over, right on the red line like that, and into the orange. And it's going to start to make it look a little more red-esque. And it's going to make it have a hot line in it, where you see on like the comic books and the movies and stuff, you see the lightsaber has the white center, and then it's got that crazy little energy line right in there, right? That's starting to build up. So we're going to do the same thing on this side. And I know that's crazy to put pink over the orange first and not go in with different colored reds, but you want it to look lively, like it has different vibes through, okay? That's the key thing, all right? Now, now I'm going to go back in, and I'm going to take, where is it? My R27, and I'm going to use a block marker here, okay? I'm going to use a block marker because I want the finer tip. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back over here on this side first because this was the wet side. And I'm going to go right down this middle here with a nice medium red line right down the middle to re-enhance that original Sharpie guide so that we have that going on. I'm just going to go right down the middle here and infuse that with a red. Okay? Now there we have the makings of the lightsaber blade. There we go with that nice straight line. Boom. I want to thicken it up just a little bit more. Bam. Okay. Now we have that lightsaber effect. And I'm going to do this very sparingly and very cautiously. But to add the core red to it so it pops out, I'm going to kind of put this thin line sporadically down across here with this maroon. And it is an R39. It's a garment color. The reason I'm doing this, and the reason I'm not talking right now is very much because I'm trying not to breathe too heavily. But the reason I'm doing that is so that it shows the core heat coming through. And I don't want to put a full brush stroke down through this thing to where it chokes it out. There we go. Cool deal. Now we've got that going on. Okay. That'll give it the dark plasma effect. So now we've got that going on. And then when that dries, I've got one more effect I have to do, which is a super light pink. It's kind of a powder pink that's going to go around the outside edge. And what that'll do is I'll give it that glow that we're looking for. Okay. Now I'm going to grab, this is an RV29. It's an actual crimson. That's what the color's called. And I'm coloring these buttons that we know on his lightsaber staff. That's the hilt of it right there. Then I'm going to go in with a light C3 because this is a very light piece. Very light. I'm going to kind of color it from the center out. Just a little bit like this. And we'll have highlights on it, so that'll be awesome. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down this one side, all the way down, I don't care, all the way down. Now we're going to go in here, and again, I'm going to color these as accent shadows, right here, like that. And then we're going to take it a step further with a very smooth T4. Like this on the darker side of this thing. And it's okay if this runs at random because this is not a smooth metal. It's scuffed up from combat and being rubbed on stuff, so it's not a smooth polish. So you really don't have to worry about that. Everybody worries about that, making it, it's going to be smooth and pristine to look like metal. No, it doesn't. Have you seen Boba Fett? That dude is an accident. Man, he is a junkyard dog if you've ever seen one. And everybody freaks out about that. And it's just like, I don't want to mess him up, Nah, man. Stop worrying about stuff like that. Now, we've got that going on. Now we're going to get into these horns a little bit. And I'm going to grab some of the warmer colors to really dig this in. But I'm going to start with the dark base coat here. And this is why I said that we don't have to worry about that red, because it blends right in. And this is a warm 5 to give it that nice brown color. But there's also a, almost forgot. He has these weird colored teeth that match his bones, by the way. It's made of the same material that, the same genetic material that his teeth are and his bones. So there we have that. Now we have, the funny thing is now we have a yellow, and a lot of people don't realize this, but he has not a bone yellow, but a bright yellow inside of his horns, which pops out. And it's so weird to see it when you do the color breakdown for this thing at that level. And it makes his teeth look really vibrant and really gnarly. So, but that's just his genetic makeup. And now I'm going to go in with the toner 5. Nope, that's not it. I want to use the neutral 5 and put in these shadows here and kind of pop it out just a little bit. Just in key places, not very much. Just kind of accent it and get out. Because with all this black in here, you want to worry about it washing out and looking weird, okay? And then just in these gray areas, you just touch in just a little more of the color from his bone that way. And it shows up. Ta-da! Now, if you really want to get cool with it, while we're waiting for that, you can go in and do this, okay? Go in with a white like this. This is just a white Stedler. Go in and give him just a little bit of a highlight here and there up on the high side. But don't do it too much down on the face, because you don't want to wash out the black, okay? And it'll make it look gritty, and then it won't look good. But you can go in and tone that stuff out just a little bit if you want to put in a high side kind of thing, where the high points are, and then leave the darker stuff down to contrast it. I like to do this a lot because then it pulls out a little bit more of the fleshy edge of where the character actually is in these highlights. Like this jaw right here, I really want to accent that jawline like that, and just a little bit of this cheek where he's getting this highlight from this side. But you want to be very careful about how you contrast it, because it'll pull it too far, And he's getting a little light from this side as well, so we'll add just a little bit. And he's getting a little from here, right across this lip, and the peaks on his chin just a little. And it'll bring it up just enough to where you can really give him an edge and make him look gnarly and a little more organic. But like I said, I don't like to put in white spots. A little smudge here and there is one thing on the organic material, but I don't like to put in true white spots, because then it makes him look washed out, and it'll make the print look like it's bad inks instead of making it look accented, okay? There's a huge difference in that. You have to be careful with that. And do a little bit on the high spots of the red as well, which I do like to do just to bring it together. But again, you don't want to black out or white out anything that should be dark or should be light, that kind of thing. So there we go, cool. Now that livens them up just a little bit. So we got that going on. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in with these other darker tones, and I'm going to see if I can drop some more shadow into these pieces of his uniform, because his belt has no light to it whatsoever. It's not refractive, so all we see there is just dark, plain and simple. This is a C7, so all we see there is just dark. Boom, done, gone. Okay, so I'm kind of lighting that out, lighting up that top side, and lighting that up in the suit area, while keeping the hues down dark for the belt. Now I know that's going to look weird, but as it dries, it will pick up and look better. Now, like here, I'm going to accent certain areas on the interior, and I'm going to leave the majority of the outside alone, because I don't want them to get as dark as that outside of the belt, you know, as the color of the belt. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go in and block it in like this for the shadows, and then when that dries, it'll still show up, but it won't look as bright and as intense. It'll have edges to it rather than complete darkness, and it'll still have highlights, so we can get all that going on. But this under area, I'm just going to buff it right out. Boom, done deal. Then I'm going to go in some of these darker areas like this, and I'm going to kind of do a hit and run thing. You know, I'm going to kind of darken them up just a little bit, and then I'm going to run out. So boom, come up over here, boom, hit the side of that finger where he's got that darkened up. That'll hit right there, get a little light there. Block out this little patch right here. Block out this little patch here and here, but leave a little bit of highlight so that we can see it on the, you know, the light coming through. And that'll take care of that. On this side of the forearm up here, I'm going to leave the same thing. Well, the upper forearm anyway. Right here, again, one side down, one side up, one side down, one side up, and it'll go across the board that way. Just kind of hitting all these dark places and darkening this up. Now I know this is going to be a little awkward at first, but like I said, when it dries, it'll show back up, and it'll help a lot to intensify that with these colors. So there we go. Now we got the hand outlined and the upper arm outlined. And I like to do things like this, you know, go in and show different contrast to the folds. Just darken it where it looks like it needs to be darkened to match up with the folds of the fabric. Like this crease right here, that's leaning under, so that would be down. This is leaning under right here, like that. Part of this would be leaning under, but the light would hit it from over there, so you'd have this underlight like that. Same thing here, crest it a little bit right here. It just depends on where the light's hitting. So, you know, use your eye, and this is awesome to learn how to control your mind's eye for, you know, following the light. So that's what we're looking at here, and that's how we're going to grow it and make it work. So just a little bit there. And remember, we've got the primary light sources coming from this way and down this way. So that would be the reason why we have that going on. So watch out for that. This would be leaning forward, so this would have a smaller light. This side would come around, and this would be lit up, so we'd have a little bit of darkness under here, and that's it. This side would be shadowed. This would be shadowed. This would be shadowed, so on. So we got all this going on down here. Very cool, right? Very cool. And now, because he's leaning down, I want to leave a lot of this open, but there's things like the side of the overlap, which would be right here, which would definitely go dark because there's less light there, see? And right in here, that would be darkened. This would be a little bit darker for a shadow right there. Okay? Just eyeball it and see where you can put it. And if it looks like it should be shadowed, then shadow it. Okay? Gonna go down here and kind of put a lip on here, just a little bit, for this shadowed edge. A little contrast right there. A lot of people are so freaked out by this stuff, and they get so turned around with it and bit into it to where they can't get a functioning look at it, and they go, I don't know where the light goes. Think about your light sources and just bump it. Just say, okay, I've got the light source coming from A and B, and if you even have to, break out a ruler and, you know, map it out. I do that all the time. I break out rulers all the time, and I'll be like, okay, you know, my light line is A and B, and C is my, you know, my visual point or vanishing point. It just depends. And you build up a rapport with it and learn how to focus it and get what you want out of it without freaking out. So if you get freaked out, just remember where your light sources are coming from, map them across the page, and don't worry about it. Stick it up there and say, this is where the light's coming from, you know? And if you change it, make sure you change it across the board. Don't just change it to change it. You know, you may be like, screw it, and you start doing all kinds of weird stuff. Don't do that. I've seen people do that. You know, you can't change directions like that, because there's an old saying, you know, you change horses in midstream, you're bound to fall off and get wet. And that's true. That's true. You know, you're going to hit the water eventually, whether you jump down to get on the new ride or whether you fall off for trying to jump across. One of the two things is going to happen. You're either going to make it or you're going to get wet. And the law of averages says you're going to get wet. So just keep that in mind. So we got this going on. Now let's see some of this lower extremity here. We're going to get down into these lower wraps here. If you heard that thump, my ruler fell off my table. It happens. It's okay. Just kind of brushing in some highlights, because this is so dark anyway. I'm just kind of edging this out and letting a little bit of a light hit here and there so we can map this out. So we got that going on. And then underneath here, this is going to go all the way across, because this robe is going to cause a shadow. So this is going to drape no matter what. Okay, so just go with the flow there, pop it in, go with the shadow, and let it happen. And then go with your boot, which is a darker leather, like your leather gloves and your gauntlet. You got to go with the flow there as well, and just kind of darken that up. It's not going to have much light to it, so that's going to be pretty open. Now we got this back here. This area is going to be completely darkened out because it's open to the ground for the shadow underneath. This is going to come right to the edge here. And like I said, I like to do most of this in the dark. because I don't want all that to highlight with all these dark, heavy shadows down there, because it contrasts a little bit too much for my taste. So what I like to do is I like to give it heavy, heavy shadows on big spots like this and make it really hard to see. Because it's in shadow. He's leaning forward, so all this is going to be in dark. You got to remember, the light's coming down this way and this way, so it's not going to shine on this when it's between his legs and then he's leaning over on top of it. So you're going to have this patch and this patch really dark. So this is the inside thigh here, so that's going to be darker. This is going to be inside. This is going to be the inside, so this is going to be darker. Half of this, half of this, half of this. And then you're going to have a little bit of a shadow right across to darken up that area too. And then you'll have a key light here and there. But for the most part, this is going to be dark. And the reason why is because you, like I said, you've got 3 light sources going on, from the lightsaber, then the 2 side lights, and then this is going down in the middle, so it's not going to show up as much. And everybody's like, why don't you let your light flow through? Well, that would be false light. It's not true light. So, you know, you're going to have way less than you'd think. But that's a matter of opinion and a matter of the colorist that's doing it. So whatever. But for me, I would much rather have it be true and be blocked out. But that's just my eye, not everybody else's. So now we've got that going on. We've got him colored up. We've got the lightsaber colored up. We've got the eyes, the horns. We're good to go. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back over here. For one, I'm going to grab my ruler off the floor. Bear with me a second. And then I'm going to grab a couple of blues. Let's see. Yeah, that'll work. What I want to do is grab a blue. And I don't want it to be neon, so bear with me a second. Yeah, that's too bright. I want to grab a very soft blue. This one will work. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this before we highlight this guy back here as a separate character. I'm going to go along and I'm going to kind of do this number here. I'm going to do this very lightly, very pale. And I'm going to give this great outline to him so he comes off just a little bit. So bear with me. I want to outline him first so I don't jack him up. Okay. And I'll outline him like this. And this will pop him right out. Okay. So now we got that line going on. I'm going to line through here in the middle. Hopefully you guys can see that, what I'm doing. I'm just putting an outline around him like this first. And then I'm going to go back up and do more of that washed paint look. That watercolor look. Okay. So I just don't want to cut into his paint by streaking across it. It's like, what'd you do? You watered down his paint. Okay. Let me go back up this side here real quick. And this one may look like it's dried up, but it's not. It's actually a very light color. It's a B41, so it's a true blue. What color is it? It's powder blue. So let's see. We're going to get him mapped out here. And we'll go about this far. Up the arm here. And I'm going to go across this lightsaber scabbard. Like that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and I'm going to map this out like this. Okay. I'm going to keep this way back here. Off the edge. Like that. Okay. And I'm going to come back down here. And again, I'm going to rotate my tip so I don't tear my paints up. Kind of bring that together. Giving that a chance to dry and mesh together a little bit. And see, when it dries, it gives it this very clear watercolor look. And all I'm doing is swishing back and forth, trying not to crush my tip in the process. Just grabbing down and pulling out. I'm not making full circles here, I'm just washing it out. Okay, now whenever I get this done, what will happen here is it'll give it that watercolor look like I have over here on the other side. And what I want is to have kind of a background on him, just a little bit, to give him a little more of a three-dimensional pop before I go in and highlight the rest of that lightsaber. Okay. And we've got Darth Maul coming along. Now, I'm going to go down here and go ahead and do this on the outside leg here. Just go ahead and finish this up. And I know this is taking a little more time than we expected, but the thing is, I want to do it right, you know what I mean? And these bigger pieces take a little more time. So, but I'm spending a couple of hours on these things with an episode or two with you guys, where most people wouldn't even be able to benefit from that because it takes too long, you know. So I know I'm faster than most, and I appreciate that blessing, and I love sharing this stuff with you guys because I can afford to. So hang with me. It's going to be interesting. We're going to finish this up and knock him out real quick in just the next couple minutes here, because we've got to finish this up, and then we've got to do the lightsaber here, and then we'll be done. Okay? So like I said, just bear with me a little bit further. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it. So let's get this done, and we'll finish this one up and go from there. So, okay. Now we got this going on. Now this is going to look kind of like more like a Topps card, you know, kind of like a Disney card kind of thing when it's done, because this is the effect that they use for a lot of the background paintings for the cards that they use. And I dig it, I dig it, I dig it. So, you know, this is a painting technique to give it a filled background. I used to do this with a lot of pinups that I did. I used to use watercolor markers and filament markers back in the day, and I would use these all the time, you know, and just fill in this stuff, and it's like, it looks like watercolor painting. Wow, you look so special. And it's not really that easy or intense, but it does work, so whatever. All joking aside, it does work. It does pull it out. So we've got this going on. I'm trying not to turn his horn blue. That would be weird. So bear with me here. Going to go across this, the hilt of this thing, down to about here. And we're going to squiggle this back. Like I said, we're going to color this back a little bit like this. Get back up here so I can pull some more of this down. Okay, cool. I'm digging it. Now, I'm going to go across the top to wrap this up a little bit. I'm going to go across the top here. And I'm going to outline the rest of it so it still looks like it's in the same frame, okay? Now, I know that's going to be a little crazy, but we're going to map this out a little bit like this. Start pulling this away a little bit. And then I'm going to go in and smooth this out right around here. And the reason I'm popping these both of these sides out is, of course, so that we can do the laser pink flare like I told you about. Okay? So bear with me here as I do the watercolor thing a little more. It's like he really likes that watercolor effect. Oh my gosh. Yeah, a little bit. I want it to hold up and take care of business. So we got that going on. Like I said, I kind of squiggle that out a little bit. Matter of fact, I want to do that down here too to open that up a little more. Just a little bit. Okay. There we go. Cool deal. All right. Now I'm going to go back off this way just a little bit more. Back off this way a little bit more. Then I'm going to come down here with these, pull these out, thicken this up just a little bit, match that over just a little bit. Okay. Now what I'm doing here is I'm, like I said, just bringing it up even so that it'll kind of show off the figure a little bit more and pop him out. Okay. Now we got that going on. But what you're seeing underneath is where the paper's wet. You're seeing the orange pop through underneath, I'm sure. And I dropped my cap. Gotta grab that. So can't have that floating around. I'm gonna pop a couple of these up here. So we can turn this big guy around. Now you're starting to be able to see what's going on, right? Okay. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab the two pinks that I need and we're gonna call it done. There's one. Okay, cool. There's the other. All right. Now, one of these is going to be an 02, and one of them is going to be a 21. I'm going to use, there's the 02. Let me see which one I need to use first. I don't remember which one's lighter. This one's going to be more of what we want. Okay. The RV02. This is going to give us that great pink highlight, warm, kind of glowy thing off of the lightsaber here. Okay. I'm going to kind of pull it down, just barely tapping the tip and pulling outward and giving it that flare. So we have that going on. I want to move this over a little bit so I don't ruin the table. Okay. And that's all we're going to do is just going to pull that flare down like that. That's it. That is it. Just come out from the colors and pop that flare down just a little bit. So we have that going on. And we're going to get this all the way down the saber. Now, see, there's the intensity, right? We're going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to turn it so that I can do it a little faster. So that I can knock this out a little bit easier and feather it down that way. Again, just feathering it on either side, pretty even, close as you can get, without any issues. And then you'll work it on down the saber like that. Now what's going to happen is that orange and that pink and that red are going to contrast and they're going to bleed into that pink just a little bit. And then you're going to have that great warm look. Okay? So when that dries, we're going to be able to have that same look in a very light pink, which I need to find. Where are you? There's an RV10. Ah, there you are. There's an RV10 and an RV20, an R20, which is a blush, and then there's a pale cherry pink, okay, which is an R11. Now, the R11 is almost flesh tone, so that's going to be too off for what we're looking for. But the pink, the RV10 might be of color. Yeah, I think the RV10 is going to be perfect here for what we need, because we're going to go in and we're going to add a very cool, super light, super soft pink like this. And this is going to add in the flare that we need for the lightsaber without it being a huge red flame coming off of it and looking goofy. You know what I mean? We don't want it to look that intense. We want it to be a soft glow. We don't want it to be something that comes out and just ruins it and makes it look like it's flaring out. That's not what we want, nor what we need. So we get this great pink going on like that on either side. Make it look like it has that soft glow coming off of it that everybody likes to see in the comic books. Like that. So there we go. Now I'm going to go in with a very light, this is not the right one that I want here. I'm going to go in with a very light gray and come around the outside of this thing and wash it out, and then there we go. Bear with me while I grab it. I think a blue violet 20 is what I'm going to be looking for. That'll work. Cool deal. Now I'm going to come in right about here, and I'm just going to do this number. And kind of shadow it out. And I want it to look watercolored, so I'm using long strokes here and just brushing over it. And I want it to have that cloudy transparency to it. So we're going to put this back up on camera so you guys can see. This is like I said, this is a BV20, and I want it to show off a blue-gray as it makes the transition. Now I know that's not exactly what everybody wants, but the thing is, I want it to show a transition from one phase to the other. Okay. And in putting in this color, I know it looks weird at first, but when this dries, it'll look like he's coming right out of the page. And I want it to have that kind of look. I almost want it to look like he's coming out of another dimension or another world. And I want it to look dark and have that horrible, violent feel of, you know, almost the music from the Star Wars movies playing in the background, that this guy is coming at you from that perspective. So that's why I do it this way. A lot of people think it's a weird approach, but the thing is, it works. It works. It works. So now we got that going on. Now I'm gonna move over to this other side. Excuse my sniffles there. I'm gonna kind of brush this out from this direction again on the other side, leaving that same style of gap. And we're about done here. I'm going to finish this up pulling this down here like this, then fleshing it out. And I'm not giving the paper a chance to suck up a lot of the ink because I don't want it to be thick. I want it to have a watercolored, thin look to it. So that's why I'm doing that. And now I'll go into the top here and do the same thing real quick and just feather this out. And you'll notice the dark spots are right at the top where I'm pressing the most contact. And these backgrounds, this wash, will give him more of a three-dimensional effect along the way. Because it's going to look, like I said, with this background looking watercolored, it's going to make him pop up a little more. So we'll have a little more of a solid feel to him. So let's get this done. This may be one of my favorite pieces. I really, really dig this one. Of course, I like Darth Maul, you know, the darker colors. Darth Vader, Darth Maul. I like the darker colors and the darker figures in the Star Wars series. Anyway, I'm more of a fan of the dark side stuff because they're more interesting characters. On the lighter side, I would have to say probably Chewbacca is probably one of my favorites because of the fact that, you know, I can get more character development out of that guy as well as they go along the way. And when they do the Chewbacca movie, the Han Solo Chewbacca movie, I can't wait for that because the Solo movie is going to be good, but I think the Chewbacca film is going to be better. And they're talking about doing one of each. So with Solo coming out this year and then Chewbacca coming out next, I'm hoping they'll be able to do that. But we'll see. As it goes along the way, we'll see. Now I've got a little bit of a crazy thing going on with the B12 that I was going to stick in. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of touch on the outskirts here like this and bring that in just a little on the edge to pop the color in, just a dash here and there, and we're going to leave that alone from there on. So like this, kind of a couple of hits there just to break it up a little bit. So there we go. Cool deal. Hope you guys dig this thing. I know I had fun with it. I hope you like it. And there we have Darth Maul. Hope you can see it. Hope it looks awesome. And we'll go from there. As for me, I'm going to call it a night. And I will see you guys in the next one tomorrow. So, as always, we have this big rock for a limited amount of time. And it's a great party while we're here, but we have to take responsibility for the next generation to prep it and restock the shelves before we leave and lock out the doors and shut off the lights and all that good stuff. So, talk to you tomorrow.